Hello everyone, dear Audi fans and motorsport enthusiasts. My name is Misha and I'm extremely excited to welcome you all here live at Audi Tradition. Live, this means that you can tune in and ask your questions and ask us what you would like to know, to see about this Audi RS5 Turbo DTM car. I am joined by Stefan and Timo, and we are here inside at Audi Tradition, indoors, and although we've been vaccinated and we have been tested and we are not wearing masks, we'll still be keeping distance, but not to this car. And in case you missed the previous episodes, gentlemen, maybe you can quickly introduce yourself, starting with you, Stefan.
Hello, Misha. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Stefan Dreyer, and I'm head of the development at Audi Sport Racing.
And Timo?
Yeah, my name is Timo Witt. Once again, welcome also from my side. I'm head of the historical car collection here at Audi Tradition.
Well, I'm extremely excited to talk about this car, and also brings back nice memories because it feels as if yesterday, Stefan, you and I were sitting on the couch at the WhatsApp Audi and talking about the introduction of the engine of the 2-liter TFSI, and now we're here. We're talking about it. The history already 3 years later, 2 years later. So let's talk about it. How did the introduction of this car came about? Because the naturally aspirated engines have been used for quite a while. And what made the series or the manufacturers decide to go for turbocharged?
Well, as you said, the V8 was used for a long time. It was, airflow restricted. It was natural aspirated. It was a more or less standard engine. And obviously, new technology, downsizing, efficiency, that played a major role. And actually, we started to think about the new regulations in 2014, a new engine regulation. And we finally managed to bring the 4-cylinder turbo 2-liter into racing in 2019. And I remember well sitting on your couch, I was still a little worried because, it was not such an easy development. But I mean, Jesus, the victory and the success we had was just unbelievable.
Yeah, it was the most dominant car of Audi in the whole series history.
It was awesome.
We're talking about the engine. Why is the engine cover still on? Let's take it off.
I don't know. We can take it off.
There we go. Easy as that with one hand.
Yeah, I need two. No, but it's light. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So many shiny components. Right. Tell us everything we need to know. The power output, displacement, the amount of cylinders.
Well, power output, let's start there. I believe it was 415 something like kilowatt. And don't forget, it was also fuel flow regulated. So the standard fuel flow, and it's actually not like an LMP car where the fuel flow is monitored. It's actually restricted. It had a fuel flow restrictor. So, the DMSB didn't have to control electronically. They just checked the part. Everything was okay. Anyways, 413 kilowatts.
Which is 610 horsepower.
Yeah, something like this. And we had a push-to-pass system in it. Maybe that's also interesting. And basically what it did, it bypassed the fuel flow. And in 2019, you got extra 5 kilos. So you went to 95 kilograms per hour to 100 kilograms per hour. So, that's, I would say, 15 to 20 horsepower, something like this. But keep in mind, in DTM, 1% of engine power is about 1.5 tenths of a second. And this decides if you are in quali on P1 or on P10.
Yeah.
So right on the edge.
And with addition to that, I believe push-to-pass also activated DRS.
Yeah, yes, of course. I mean, push-to-pass combined with DRS, and that was an effective passing tool and made the racing exciting. I mean, it worked.
Yeah. Ooh, that's an interesting question coming in. How long would it take to swap an engine in a car like that?
Oh, actually, to be honest, on the race, there's a big difference because when we go testing, for example, there's tons of measurement equipment, so it takes longer. But on a race car, I would estimate 3 hours.
Okay.
If you push, if you're a little bit, something around 3 hours. Yeah.
So between the free practice one and qualifying two,
it was difficult. but to be honest, this engine, and that was the key, it was very reliable. And at the end, we were worried. As I said, when I sat on your couch, I was still worried. But this engine, just ran.
Yeah.
And we were the only manufacturer doing the whole season using the contingent of engines which was allowed, which was 3 engines per 2 drivers. So we were the only ones, and it was like a victory for us. It felt so good. Yeah, it was cool.
I like the honest/human aspect of what you're telling. Like, yeah, we didn't know if it's gonna work, and then it worked. Amazing. Now here we are.
It was really cool. I mean, the vibrations during the development was bad. And even when we went into the car, we had cracks steering, we had cracks on, this area. Also in the area of the pedal boxes. So very worrying, because they're all safety parts. But we managed to control it all. And at the end, we went for it. It was cool.
There's a question coming in on YouTube to tell something about the brake system. I think there's a lot that we can tell about it. So
well,
what do we have here?
Actually, excuse me. The brake system is not so special. It's rather standard, and all the other manufacturers had the same parts. We did this to save costs, and even the brake discs, I think only 2 or 3 sets per season were allowed. So you had to really, monitor and work with your brakes so they last through all the season.
Wow!
But maybe one insight for this group of people, even though it was well regulated, we spent a lot of work on the brake cooling, let's call it, but we also cooled a little bit the rim and the tire, and so that was, I would say, one of the advantages we had due to smart engineering.
And it was all air cooling. It's not like
it was all
trucks that you run additional water.
No, it was all air cooled except for Norrisling. There also water cooled brakes were allowed. You had there like a function on the where you can spray the brakes. But all the other racetracks, standard air. But at the end, standard, rather standard.
Yeah. And when we look at this also here, the suspension, I guess it's a push rod suspension.
Yeah, it's basically also the same between the manufacturers. There were really many spec parts on this car. Also, the aero. The only thing where you could really distinguish each other was with the engine development. So BMW had its engine, we had our engine, but the car at that stage, because the cars also got more and more expensive, we tried to control it and made many cars the same.
I have a very sensitive question for you, actually, since you're very involved with engine development. Do you think the internal combustion engine will be killed by the regulations eventually?
Oh, that's a difficult one. I mean, sure. I worked for Audi. But no. I think, and really that's my honest answer, every technology has the right to be there. And it depends on the use case. And so I think also an ICE has the right to be there. And I believe there will be a future. It will not be as big, and everything is going towards electrification. But at the end, I think if you are able to connect the existing technologies in a smart way, I think there is a future for any technology. That's really, and I believe it.
Yeah. Well, I hope so too, for sure. Let's move more to the back or to the middle of the car and talk about the interior. And actually, I just want to point out that when I was filming DTM, I was absolutely not allowed to show anything of the engine. So what you see now is pretty exclusive.
Yeah.
And then another point that we were absolutely briefed as media of not allowing you to show anything, pedal box.
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, to be honest, I don't know. I really do not know. And I tell you why. Because I remember during the race season, I saw pictures and video, of the camera, of the pedal box. And what I saw back then, I'll never forget. I saw René Rast going down the straight, and I see both feet on the gas pedal. So I asked him, "What do you do?" I do it. And he said, "Well, many years ago." And he's a really hard worker and analyst and looks at the data. And he saw that whenever he went over a bump, the throttle would lift just a little bit, 1 or 2%. And he said, "No, I'm not going to do this." This is why he pushes, honestly, and he does this every time. So really, I do not know the answer to your question, because I remember seeing actually those footage.
Yeah, well, I guess I know what to do now on Nordschleife with all the bumps, especially the front car.
You go double.
Don't make the brake pedal extra wide, make the throttle pedal extra wide. That's
a good one,
for the engineering. But yeah, let's talk about the cockpit, about the interior.
Maybe you can turn it on, Timo. Huh?
Yeah. So first of all, we have 2 steering wheels, I would say, even. With one, the main one, and then it's actually the brake bias distribution.
Yeah, exactly. I know what you mean now.
Yeah.
It looks like one, but it's, as you say, it's you know, very well positioned, good for the driver to reach, to change the brake bias, brake balance front to rear. And they actually, you know, some drivers used it in front of every corner. So quite an effective, you know, way to set it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, when it comes to steering wheel, it's not that complicated. It's similar to what we know from other race cars.
Yeah.
The display is quite sophisticated. You
Yep.
have lots of information. This was also something that you would never see on the live stream, interestingly enough. So the data and the speed, everything was kept confidential. But other than that, looks like any other production RS5 to me.
Well, I tell you, nope. And
is there any part
yeah,
on the car from
nope.
production?
No, really, no. And keep in mind, because you had, you know, at that time BMW and Aston Martin, you wanted to be more or less equal performance as well. You don't want that the manufacturer has an advantage because he has a different base model. So all cars were scaled to a certain width and height and length, only a little bit. Therefore, for sure, no parts from the series car is in the car. But as you see, it's still an RS5. It looks like one. I believe it looks really nice. And yeah, due to performance reason, we had to do that.
There are many questions coming in about the suspension on YouTube. Can you tell us more about it, or was it like something that you developed in-house, or was it just external components?
No, this was standard actually. Everybody used very similar parts, well regulated. And to be honest, back then on this car, I was not really involved in the suspension.
It looks nice. I like the color.
I wouldn't have that much detail now in the suspension. I mean, for me, it's rather straightforward, you know.
Okay, and what's the weight of the car, actually?
The weight was, I think, 1,115 kilos, including 84 kilos of driver as a standard weight. That was the weight, yeah.
Okay, so the driver was already like standardized.
Yeah,
right,
it was also standardized, yeah.
Would they actually work with BOP, like if the driver was too heavy or too...
No BOP.
Okay. And another question regarding the engine is why didn't you go for the traditional 5-cylinder design of Audi?
Yeah, good question. I mean, when we started the discussions on the regulations in 2014, you also have to know that there was a cooperation signed with the Japanese, with the GT cars.
Oh yeah.
And they were already using 4 cylinders. And as we wanted to compete in Japan and the Japanese in Germany, we also went for 4-cylinder. And basically the philosophy on the engine rules was the global race engine design, which, you know, gives you good power for, you know, good money, I would say. And this is at the end why we went for 4-cylinder. And yeah, 5-cylinder fits to a series car. Agreed, understand what it's meant, but also 4-cylinder, you know, fits perfect in.
Yeah, it's small and compact, and it's easier to twist it any way. And as shows, it can produce lots of horsepower. Horsepower.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Let's have a look more in the back. The brakes again.
Rather standard. Really, not a lot to say. As said before, with the cooling, we did quite some investigations. Let's put it this way.
Yeah. No suspension components here because I believe it's the same setup on the rear as also on the front.
Gearbox was also standard. It was a 6-speed gearbox, pneumatic shift system. Everybody used the same. Everybody used the same unit. So nothing really to mention. Yeah.
The wing is active, or is it only for DRS?
No, it's only for DRS, and that's it.
That's it. So yeah. And what's this here? Is this like the rain light?
I believe it was the rain light. To be honest, I can't really remember. Wasn't it blue? Can't remember. I think it was. Yeah.
So, and it also has somewhere like rear view camera, just like the production car. So that's a similarity.
Yeah, sure.
Has also 4 wheels.
Yeah.
Another question coming in about the brakes. What are those Kevlar shields around it? Is it to keep the heat in?
Yeah, it was basically a protection, also to guide the airflow to get a proper and high sophisticated cooling. Yeah.
Okay, so cool. Yeah, cooling, airflow. And do you know the wheelbase?
Oh, I don't know the wheelbase off of my head. I would have to look it up. No, I can't answer you this question. Sorry about that one. I don't have all numbers in my head.
Yeah. Just looking through the questions because there are so many, and some of them I answered, and some of them we're still looking here. Yeah, it's. What's your favorite moment? Tell us an anecdote.
My favorite moment, I think, was the relief when we finally started to racing. We were very worried because the development was really tough, and we were not sure if we had all things sorted out. And then we saw, hey, we are there. And then we kept going, and we saw the BMW dropping off race by race. And I believe, I'm not sure if it's right, that they couldn't basically run the power during the whole season. And we kept going, and we're always like this on the limit. And that was, for all of us, for the whole team, spent so much time and effort. It was like a relief, and it was the most successful DTM era, 19 and 20 ever. So that was a good end.
Yeah, because you won the manufacturers championship already way before the end of the season. It was like, I think, like a couple of races.
I think back then it was 12 out of 18 races. In 2016, out of 18 races. I mean, almost all pole positions. I mean, it was like a dream. We never expected that. That was cool.
Yeah, you just answered the question that just came in. How many races the car has won?
Many races, yeah. And I mean, at some point, we also couldn't believe it anymore. It was cool.
Yeah.
And we spent many hours on the dyno, I can tell you.
And so how do you put, is it like just the engine dyno, just the engine itself, or you put the actual car axle dyno? Or
well, actually, that's a really interesting question because obviously we have dynos where you can do both. You run either just the engine or the complete powertrain. But on DTM, we never ran the complete powertrain.
Okay.
We only had the engines on, no matter if it's V8 or 4-cylinder. And don't ask me why, but we never thought it was necessary. We basically saved that money for other areas. But on any other project like LMP or the future technologies now, you would always run the complete powertrain.
Yeah, because you would maybe like take into consideration maybe power losses or the way it transcends. Or...
And you should also keep in mind that, the gearbox was not a development part by us. So you would have to make sure it works in the car. You do a proper power shift application, so it shifts smooth, it shifts fast. And that we preferred to do in the car, and we had so much experience over the years. We just did it. We didn't need a dyno.
Was the gearbox for everyone the same, or?
Yeah, everyone the same. The only thing you could play with is the final drive. So you knew what top speed to expect. This is how you set your final drive. Of course, depending upon the power curve you have on the shape when you want to have top speed.
Yeah.
I mean, we revved 8.5, no more. The rules were up to 9.5. But our curve was, wide and full and flat.
Yeah.
It was a cool power curve, I can tell you.
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting one. How many people are working on the development of such a car?
Car or engine? Car was the question?
Well, car, but we can do both.
I would say, well, not so easy to answer, but something between 60 to 80.
Okay.
But also keep in mind that it's not only the development, it's also the testing, it's also the racing. I would say 60 to 80 people, something like that.
And that's within Audi, just to work on that, because some people work on the engine and external components come from those companies. And that's,
of course. That's just Audi, correct.
Yeah.
And on the engine side, that's also not so easy to answer, because when we started the engine, we were actually still involved in the LMP program. So we were a big group of people. Then we had to withdraw from Le Mans. That was not so nice experience, I have to tell you. And then we had to reduce also the staff.
But you're going back to Le Mans.
I know, but in a different way. No. Okay. And but we talk about this the next time, maybe.
Yeah.
And anyways, so I would say on the engine side, 30, 40 people, something like this.
Is there anything that you learned from these cars for the consumer cars, the production cars?
To be honest, difficult. I mean, can't really answer because it's pure racing. There's so much defined within the rules. So no, not a lot, to be honest.
Here's an interesting one. What is the most expensive part of this car?
The engine.
Yeah,
of course.
Can you mention the numbers?
No.
The amount of zeros.
Well, the amount of zeros. Well, that's easy. The amount of zeros.
Yeah.
Well, at the end there are 3.
Okay.
The question is what's up front. No. I mean, it's it's an
expensive one.
Yeah. No, I don't want to talk about.
Yeah, no, of course, but it's like we understand. To understand.
But it's much cheaper than an LMP engine. This I can tell you.
Yeah. I can imagine that. But well, interesting, because you said there was lots of talks involved with other competitors to design this engine, probably also with the racing series.
Yeah.
Were there any thoughts, and if yes or if no, why not, to do a hybrid system?
To be honest, there were a lot of discussions about the hybrid system, also a spec hybrid system, also as a passing tool or performing tool or a sustainable message technology, but at the end it never came, and I think it was due to costs. But I will be very, very interested in how the DTM will develop, and now it's quite, successful with the GT car. It works. There are many competitors. It's fun to watch, but I believe the future in DTM will also be electrified, let's call it.
Yeah, because they already showed the first prototype cars.
In Hockenheim, I saw that. Yeah,
the Scheffler car, I believe.
Yes, exactly.
It will be interesting to see where it's going to go and how it will develop. Is the majority of downforce on these cars generated by the Venturi tunnels, or?
Well, first of all, let's talk about the aero, even though I'm not really back then 100% aero specialist, but the cars were, really aero dominant, I would say, up to 2014, 15. I mean, they were aero monsters, I call them, similar to an LMP car.
Yeah.
And then more and more, due to cost reduction, everything was simplified, standard parts, and actually this part, I wouldn't say it has no aero. It wouldn't be right to say. You see the wing, you see the flicks and flaps and stuff like that, but that's nothing compared to the
older cars where you have everywhere like a bit of wing here, but here we have space.
But when you ask me, the trick with this car, and this is, I think, where we were different than the competitors, we ran quite a high amount of rake with weight balance, I don't tell you. But I think this was a big difference to the competitors. And I think that's also, for my understanding, it was the key for success. And of course, the engine power.
And of course, the engine. He did a very good job there. It's amazing.
So high rake concept.
High rake concept. Some secret insider information. Well, I think that's pretty much it when it comes to the question from everyone else. So we also overtime, so it's like a bit of extra, but since we don't have any other car planned, maybe can people let us know in the comments which other cars they would like to see in a possible future series. I would like to go back to the 30s, the Nordschleife, the silver cars. Will be interesting. But yeah,
you need Timo to talk to.
Yes, can we do about that, please? V16. Yeah. Right. One more question is: do you think that this car will run in any other, like not really a series, but like in historic events? Because it is actually a bit too new, maybe even in a way. I think we need to wait maybe like a few decades.
We need to wait. Now there's not really a platform for it. I think it's more used for the Audi Tradition, Goodwood, stuff like that, but racing. I wish I would see this car racing again. It was awesome. The sound was good. The rev was good. Everything was good. ALS, it was cool.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope so. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time, for your knowledge, for your assistance with opening up the engine.
Thank you very much.
And I enjoyed for being here with us.
Talking and picking your brains and seeing you get emotional again. That's what separates us real, or like let's say real car guys, from just people in the office. You get emotional, and that's amazing. I hope all of you have enjoyed this as well. Thank you very much for your involvement, for all your questions, and keep them coming for the upcoming series. And check out more specials on AudiStream. Looking forward to seeing you in the future. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.